Is there anything wrong with thumb sucking?
During a child's early years, thumb sucking is not a problem. In order to survive, all babies are born with sucking reflexes that help them. Feed right away on milk from the mother's breast or formula from a bottle. From the earliest moments, an infant associates sucking with milk filling his or her empty stomach and a feeling of comfort. When not feeding, a baby may frequently suck his or her thumb, fingers, or a pacifier to get that sense of comfort again. The habit often continues in young children when they are bored or frustrated or trying to get to sleep. Many children have a hard time breaking this habit. About 10% of school-age children in the United States, 2.4 million, suck their thumbs. While thumb sucking doesn't cause problems in very young children who still have their baby teeth, it can have an effect on the bite of older kids who have their permanent teeth. Thumb sucking can push upper teeth forward and lower teeth back so that the top teeth and bottom teeth don't line up the way they should. At this point, children should be strongly encouraged to give up their habit. An older child may want to stop thumb sucking and be more grown up, especially if he or she feels some pressure from friends at school. But many kids go back to sucking their thumbs when under stress, or when they're sleeping. Keeping thumb-sucking children happy and busy, rewarding their efforts to stop, and even using reminders like a piece of tape wrapped around the thumb may help them quit the habit.
What are tonsils?
Tonsils are large bumps of special tissue located on either side of your throat at the back of your tongue. They are part of your lymphatic system, which helps your body defend itself against disease-causing germs and other foreign substances. Lymph glands, located in many parts of your body, make a special type of white blood cell called lymphocytes. They also trap infectious invaders before they can enter your bloodstream. Your tonsils are tiny when you are born, and they grow until you are about 6 or 7 years old. They begin to shrink in size after that. So your tonsils are biggest when you are just starting out in school, a time when you are exposed to more new germs than usual. When you breathe in disease-causing germs, many of them are stopped in your tonsils and in other lymphatic tissue located around your mouth and throat in order to protect your lungs. But filtering out all those germs may cause your tonsils to become infected, as a result, a condition known as tonsillitis. Tonsillitis usually results in a sore throat, fever, and difficulty swallowing. Because your tonsils grow larger, or swell, when they are infected. As you grow older and your immunity to common germs increases, you should have less trouble with your tonsils. But some people have so many tonsil infections that their doctor recommends the tonsils be removed. A doctor cuts them away during a short operation in a hospital.
Why do I have to wash my hands after I blow my nose?
Even when you use a tissue to blow your nose, you may get some of the impurities from inside your nose on your hands. You can keep from spreading germs to others or to surfaces that other people will touch by washing your hands well. That doesn't mean running the tips of your fingers under cold water. A good hand washing takes 2 minutes in warm, soapy water.
How do telephones work?
All sound is made by the back and forth movement, or vibration, of objects. When an object vibrates, it makes the molecules around it vibrate too, causing a ripple of motion known as a sound wave, which can travel through air, water, and solid materials. A telephone has vibrating parts: a disc in the mouthpiece and one in the earpiece that turn voice sounds into electrical signals that can travel along telephone wires and then turn back into sound again. Phones are usually connected to wires because they run on electricity. When you pick up a phone, a low electrical current allows you to dial the series of numbers that will connect you to the phone of a friend, for example. Each number on the phone has its own special electrical signal. And when the right numbers are combined, they can exactly identify your friend's phone line. A local telephone office receives this information when you dial and sends your call in the right direction. Call signals to places close by travel along wires or cables, buried underground or strung high in the air between supports. But when the person you call is very far away, the electrical signals sent from your phone are changed into invisible waves of energy called microwaves, which can travel long distances through the air. These waves are sent through space to communication satellites that orbit the world, which bounce them back to Earth, extending the wave's travel distance. An antenna at a receiving station near the home of your friend picks up the waves and changes them to electrical signals once more. They travel by cable to the telephone office that services your friend's neighborhood, where his or her number is identified. A signal is then sent to your friend's phone to make it ring. The entire process from dialing to ringing takes just a few seconds. When your friend answers the phone, a microphone in its mouthpiece contains a plastic disc that vibrates, turning his or her message into electrical signals that travel along the same path as before. A speaker in the earpiece of your phone receives the electrical signals, which vibrate another plastic disc that changes them back into sound. Two circuits from microphone to speaker are created, and you can talk back and forth with your friend. The next time you use the phone, think of the remarkable process that makes it possible.
What can be done to minimize pollution?
Wherever there are a lot of people, and wherever there are industries, there will be pollution. It cannot be eliminated, but it can be reduced. And many laws have been passed in the United States and elsewhere to help accomplish that. These laws help establish pollution standards, requiring industries to release fewer pollutants into the air and water. But several obstacles remain. Some industries have successfully lobbied lawmakers to be less strict about pollution controls. Many industries are reluctant to cooperate with the laws that have been passed, stating that the required changes are too expensive, and federal agencies lack the funding to enforce the existing laws. So many companies ignore the tighter standards about how much polluting they can do. In spite of these obstacles, there is much that can be done to clean up our air, water, and land. Some car companies have begun building cars that burn fuel more cleanly or that operate on a more environmentally friendly mix of gas and electricity. Producers of gasoline can make adjustments to the fuel so that fewer harmful emissions are released when it is burned. Sewage treatment plants, if they install the right equipment, can remove nearly all the waste before dumping what's left in bodies of water. Factories can treat their waste to neutralize or remove much of the harmful chemicals before dumping. Alternative energy sources harnessing the power of water or the sun, for instance, can be used to supplement the gas and oil that is used now. Landfills can be constructed so that underground pipes carry away the dangerous methane gas, using it to provide power. They can also be covered with dirt, grass, and trees to create a playground or a park. Farmers can use fewer chemicals, relying instead on organic farming methods, free of man-made chemicals. Individuals and families can also play a part in reducing pollution. Taking part in community recycling efforts and using biodegradable items to create compost, which can then be used in the garden, helps reduce each family's weekly amount of garbage. Families can also make an effort to use less water and electricity. And choosing to buy organic food supports the farmers who have decided to avoid harmful chemicals.
Why is the Statue of Liberty such an important symbol of the United States?
The Statue of Liberty stands for many of the nation's most cherished ideals: freedom, equality, and democracy. Perhaps most important to the millions of immigrants for whom the statue was one of their first sights of the United States is the ideal of opportunity, the chance to begin a new life, in a new land. While their lives in the United States were frequently difficult, for millions of immigrants, America offered the chance to escape from grinding poverty and abusive governments in other lands. Standing in the midst of New York Harbor, the point of entry into the United States for so many immigrants arriving on ships from other countries, the Statue of Liberty has been a powerful symbol of opportunity for more than 100 years. A poem called The New Colossus, written by Emma Lazarus. Was mounted on the statue's pedestal in the early 1900s. Its famous lines include these words that Lazarus imagined Lady Liberty to be saying, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me, I lift my lamp beside the golden door."
Why do some trees lose their leaves in autumn?
Broadleaf trees like maples and oaks are called deciduous trees because they lose their leaves in autumn. The loss of their leaves prepares these trees for the lack of water in winter. Cold, dry air has little moisture in it, and snow can supply water only when it melts. In addition, the frozen ground makes it difficult for a tree to draw up water through its roots. In spring and summer, gases pass and moisture escapes through thousands of microscopic openings, or stomata, in the leaves. Without its leaves in the winter, a tree can conserve as much water as possible. In autumn, as the days get shorter and the nights get colder, leaves are sealed off from the branches on which they grow, and water and minerals can no longer travel to them. Photosynthesis stops then, and the leaves gradually fall to the ground. The tree goes dormant, which is like going into a deep sleep, without its active food supply. It rests and stops growing, using food stored earlier to survive until spring arrives.
What is Indian summer?
In the United States, the term Indian summer refers to a period of warm, dry weather that sometimes occurs during autumn. Some people say a true Indian summer can only happen if this period of warm weather comes after the first frost, which is when temperatures are cold enough at night for water droplets on grass or car windshields to freeze. Indian summer is so named because it is believed that in past centuries, when such days of unexpected good weather came, Native American Indians would use that time to gather more food for winter storage.
What is the biggest bone in my body?
The longest and strongest bone in the human body is the thigh bone, or femur. In a man 6 feet, 1.8 meters, tall, the femur would measure about 20 inches, 51 centimeters, in length. Leg bones are very strong because they have to carry the weight of the body and move it from one place to another.
How old is the universe?
No one knows for sure. For a long time, scientists believed that the Big Bang that formed the universe occurred 15 to 20 billion years ago. This estimate was based on mathematical calculations using the current rate of expansion of the universe. But recent information collected by the Hubble Space Telescope indicates that the universe may be newer, only 8 billion years old.
Why do bees, wasps, and other insects sting?
An insect's sting is a defensive weapon used when it senses danger. It was developed to keep predators away from it or from its colony in a hive or nest. It is designed to pierce the skin and inject a poison or venom into the predator. If you have the bad luck to be stung by an insect, there are a few things you should do. First, move away from the hive or nest if one is nearby. A stinging bee sends out a chemical signal that excites other bees. Second, try to remove the stinger from your skin by scraping it with something hard instead of pulling it, which could squeeze the attached venom sac, releasing more of the irritating substance into the wound. Put some ice on the sting to ease the swelling and pain. If you develop a lot of swelling, a rash, or, most important, have trouble breathing, see a doctor, because you are having a serious allergic reaction.
Why do cats' eyes shine at night?
In the wild, cats frequently hunt in twilight and at night. They can do this because they have special vision that allows them to see well in dim light. They have mirror-like tissue in their eyes, called tapetum lucidum, that reflects light back to their retinas where visual images are formed, helping them to see better than most animals when light is scarce. When you see the glowing eyes of a cat at night, you are seeing light reflected from this special tissue. House cats have the same excellent vision as their wild cousins and may still hunt at night. When prey animals like mice and rats are most active. While cats don't see colors particularly well, they can spot motion quickly. Which is more important for an animal that hunts at night? Because cats have eyes that use light very efficiently. Only small amounts of light are needed to see during the day. That explains why a cat's dark center pupils, which let light into the eyes, are only narrow slits when light is bright. At night, a cat's pupils look more like those of other animals, large and round. A cat can see 6 times better than we can in dim light.
What is the Big Dipper?
The Big Dipper is part of the constellation Ursa Major, or the Great Bear. It can be easily seen on a clear night in the northern hemisphere any time of the year. The 7 stars in this group resemble a large water dipper with a long handle. The Big Dipper is useful in locating the nearby Little Dipper, part of the constellation Ursa Minor, or the Little Bear. The Little Dipper, also made of 7 stars, includes the important North Star at the end of its handle.
How do you know which is which?
The problem is that you can't always know. Sometimes hurtful people can fool kids into thinking they are gentle and helpful. They may have pleasant faces and friendly voices, and they may say nice things. So it's important to follow personal safety rules with all strangers.
Where does our electricity come from?
All matter is made of tiny particles called atoms. Inside an atom are even tinier particles. Electrons that move in orbit around a center, or nucleus, made of neutrons and protons. An electron has a negative electric charge and a proton has a positive one. Usually an atom has the same number of each, which keeps the atom neutral or unchanged arged. But sometimes electrons leave their orbit, attracted to other atoms that lack an electron and are positively charged. The movement or flow of electrons from one atom to another produces the form of energy called electricity. The electricity we use is made by huge machines, or generators, in places called power plants. An energy source is needed to run the generators, heat from burning coal, oil, or natural gas, or from the fission of nuclear fuel. Is used to boil water for the steam required to turn the turbines, or giant blades, that start the generators. Heat-based energy is known as thermal power. Rushing water from giant man-made dams or waterfalls, hydropower, can also do the job. Although not widely used, the force of the wind and the heat of the sun can be used to power generators to make electricity, too. With the help of a giant magnet, a generator creates a flow of electric charges, or an electric current, that runs through copper wire. But in order for this electricity to travel great distances, to homes and businesses far away, its voltage, the force that pushes a current along, must be raised. To accomplish this, the electricity passes through a device called a transformer. Travel ready but now too powerful and dangerous to use. Electricity is sent out from a power plant through huge cables that need to be buried safely underground or stretched high in the air between tall support towers. When the electricity reaches its destination, it is run through another transformer that reduces its voltage so that it is again suitable for normal use. It then travels to homes and businesses, through large wires attached to meters that show how much electricity is used at each location, so that the power company that runs the plant can be paid for it. Smaller wires run through the floors and walls of a home, bringing electricity to every room. These wires are attached to safety devices called fuses or circuit breakers, which stop the flow of electric current if, for any reason, it should rise to dangerous levels, which may cause overheating and fire. Devices that are powered by electricity, like lights, televisions, and toasters, can be connected with the current running through a home by the flip of a switch or by being plugged into outlets or sockets.
What keeps the bones of my skeleton together?
Your skeleton makes up the hard, strong framework of your body. Your skeleton can move easily because it consists of many bones connected by flexible joints. Joints are kept together by elastic straps called ligaments and by a smooth, flexible tissue called cartilage, which covers and joins the ends of bones. Muscles are usually attached to bones by other tough elastic straps, or bands, called tendons. During movement, when muscles contract, it is the rope-like tendons that pull bones into their new positions.
What is hydroponics?
Hydroponics is a method of growing plants in nutrient-rich water instead of soil. People have grown plants using hydroponics for about 50 years. This method is useful in places that have poor soil or for producing special plants for research. Growing conditions can be more closely controlled with hydroponics than out in the field. Crops are not bothered by weeds or insects in their protected, watery environments. And their water and mineral needs are perfectly met in the large tanks in which they grow. Without soil, plants can also be grown closer together. One problem with hydroponics, though, is that plants often have trouble supporting themselves when their roots aren't in soil, which can keep them from reaching full growth. Sometimes the roots of hydroponic plants are put in sand or gravel to fix the problem. Or the plants are supported by wires. In the future, if people live in space stations or on other planets, they will need to use hydroponics to raise food and to recycle carbon dioxide and oxygen.
Why do I cry when I'm unhappy or hurt myself?
Scientists don't really know why we cry when we're unhappy or hurt, or sometimes, even joyful. But tears help express deeply felt emotions and often release stress and tension from the body. From our earliest days, when we were babies and could not yet communicate through language, crying let the people around us know that we needed something. Frequently, even after we become older, crying still serves as a wordless signal that something help or comfort is needed. In places all over the world, no matter what language is spoken, crying expresses emotions that are easily understood by all.
How does mail get from one place to another?
Once you mail a letter, a complex process that requires the efforts of many people and machines, sometimes located in different parts of the world, begins. Perhaps you put your letter into one of the mailboxes found at various locations in your community. These conveniently located boxes mean you don't Have to make a trip to the post office each time you want to mail a letter. Mailboxes are visited by mail carriers a few times each day to pick up their contents. The mail collected by carriers is taken to a local postal sorting office, where it joins all the other letters that have been mailed in the area that day. High-speed machines take over then, preparing your letter to reach its destination. Mail is dumped onto a moving conveyor belt that brings it to a machine that separates it by size. Another machine checks to make sure that all the mail is properly stamped. And then it cancels, or prints over, the stamps so that they can't be used again. A postmark is also printed on each envelope, which tells the time, date, and place from which the letters have been mailed. A machine reads the zip codes written in the addresses of letters, which tell exactly to which part of the country or the world they are headed. Postal services around the globe work together to distribute mail, and most have similar code systems. Postal workers process by hand the letters that have missing or unreadable zip codes. The zip code machine prints a barcode, a machine-readable series of lines, more reliable than written numerals on each letter, and a second sorting machine reads and separates them by destination. Mail is grouped by city and country. Local mail is prepared for delivery the next day. Other mail travels by truck, express train, or plane, depending on where it is going. Once mail travels close to its destination, it is unloaded at another postal sorting office. A barcode reading machine scans the letters again, separating them further for delivery to districts, neighborhoods, and streets. The letters are sent to local post offices, where carriers are given the mail for their delivery areas. Routes may include homes, shops, and office buildings. Carriers who work in farm country where people live very far apart may have to travel many miles to deliver the mail each day.
Why do stars twinkle?
The light of stars travels through the many layers of Earth's atmosphere before it reaches our eyes. Along the way, the light rays bump into lots of things, pockets of hot and cold air, for example, and they are refracted, or bent. The crooked path these light rays take makes it look to our eyes as if the stars are twinkling. If we looked at stars from outer space, where the light rays we see are not traveling through and being bent by Earth's atmosphere, the stars would not twinkle.
Can pets see what's on television?
When dogs and cats look at the television, they don't see the same things that you do. They can see little or no color and can't identify objects that appear on the flat screen. But they are attracted to the movement that they see on television. Action on the screen probably stirs their hunting instincts, making them think they are watching small, scurrying prey. Dogs and cats may also show interest in some of the sounds that come from television shows. A dog barking on TV may make your pet dog bark back. Or a ringing doorbell in a TV show might prompt your dog to get up and go to the door.
What plant has the biggest leaves?
Two species of palm trees have the largest leaves in the world. The raffia palm that grows in the Mascarene Islands in the Indian Ocean and the Amazonian bamboo palm of South America both have leaf blades. Leaves with supporting stems, that measure up to 65 feet, 6 inches, about 20 meters, long.
Who is the man in the moon?
The surface of the moon is covered with mountainous highlands and smooth plains and thousands of craters, large round holes or depressions made mostly by meteorites that have hit the moon's surface. Some of these craters are many miles wide. The plains of the moon are covered by a thin layer of powdered rock that does not reflect the sun's rays very well. The highlands of the moon, however, where most of the craters are located, are covered by rocky rubble that reflects light much better. These conditions make the moon's surface appear distinctly patterned when viewed from Earth. Some people think that the pattern resembles the face of a man. Because the moon does not rotate, we always see the same side of it, with the same pattern. So the man in the moon has been watching over us for a very long time. The many craters that can be seen on the moon's surface remind some people of the holes found in Swiss cheese. In fact, some people used to explain the moon's strange-looking surface to children by saying that the moon was actually made of cheese.
Why do hugs and kisses make me feel good?
Human beings are the only animals who communicate through language. A complicated system of vocal symbols that our complex brains allow us to learn after we are born. But like other animals, we also communicate through our bodies and senses. Our organ of touch is our skin, covering the outside of our bodies. Nerve endings under the surface of skin give us our sense of touch. Hugging and kissing are ways to share love and caring through touch. When you were born, well before you knew language and could understand caring words, you were learning about love through your sense of touch. As a newborn, when everything was frighteningly new, you immediately experienced the comfort of touch when you were held in your mother's arms, feeling the warmth of her body and the beat of her heart. Sensations familiar to you when you were inside her womb. You were held close when you first learned about food and about how good it felt to have milk in your empty stomach. Your parents' caring hands kept you clean and dressed in dry clothes when you could not yet do those things for yourself. So, from your earliest days, you learned that someone's touch usually made you feel comfortable and safe. Loving and caring about special people in our lives is a feeling inside that is hard to describe in words. But hugs and kisses make it easy to show that love, and their message is clear. Giving hugs and kisses feels as good as getting them. Because the lips have an extra supply of nerve endings, kissing is an especially intense way to touch. The human need to share affection through touch is something we all experience throughout our lives.
Why do I get sick?
When you get sick, part or all of your body isn't working as it should. The cause of sickness can come from the inside your body or from the outside world. Diseases that start on the inside are usually inherited in the genes that you receive from your parents, which make up the master plan that determines how your body will grow and run. Abnormal development or functioning of different body systems is the cause of many chronic, long-lasting diseases. Things in the outside world can cause sickness, too. Poisons in the environment can cause illnesses in people. Not eating the right foods, with their important nutrients, can also cause diseases. But the most common cause of sickness from the outside world is infectious agents. These agents are usually microscopic organisms, living things so small that they can only be seen with the help of microscopes. Like bacteria and viruses, which we commonly refer to as germs. Bacteria and viruses and other microscopic organisms live in the air, water, and soil that make up our world. They are on the things and people we touch and in the food we eat. Many of them are beneficial. Bacteria are needed to make cheese. Some bacteria help vegetables like peas and beans grow. And some bacteria clean the environment and enrich the soil by feeding on dead plants and animals. But there are other microscopic organisms that invade the bodies of plants and animals and people and cause diseases. Your skin is a wonderful protective barrier that keeps a lot of the disease-causing germs that you run into each day from entering your body. Only when you have an opening in your skin like a cut or a scrape are germs likely to enter there. Most germs enter through your mouth and nose, making their way farther into your body through your respiratory or digestive tracts. But even then, certain chemicals in body tissues and fluids keep many harmful germs from causing problems. When an infection does begin, though, with the germs multiplying inside your body, your immune or defense system goes into action to get rid of the foreign organisms. Your white blood cells produce special substances called antibodies that attack and destroy the invaders, helping you to recover. Sometimes it takes several days for your immune system to stop the infection and for your body to repair the damage it caused. But after your illness you will have an immunity to the specific germs that were responsible for your sickness. This means that if the same kind of germs enter your body again, The antibodies already there will destroy them before any illness occurs. By the time you are an adult, you will get far fewer infections than you did as a child. Because you will have become immune to many of the common bacteria and viruses in the world. But when you are young and encountering different germs for the first time, you do get sick a lot.
What are eyebrows and eyelashes for?
Eyebrows and eyelashes protect the eyes, which are fairly delicate. Protecting the eyes is important because people rely far more on sight to get information about their world than on any of their other senses. We don't have the keen sense of smell that a dog has, for instance, or the excellent hearing of a cat. Eyebrows keep sweat and dust and dirt from reaching our eyes. Eyelashes do the same, protecting the delicate surface of the eyeball.
Why am I punished when I've done something wrong?
Try to remember that when you are punished it is not because you are bad. You are being punished because you need to learn that there are better ways to handle your feelings and control your actions when upsetting situations occur. When you are young it is hard to do this. To help keep you from hurting yourself or others, grown-ups make rules for you to follow. Some rules like those about sharing and taking turns, for instance, are meant to help everyone get along and treat each other with thoughtfulness and respect. Other rules like those about wearing a helmet while riding a bike, let's say, are meant to keep everyone safe. So rules exist for good reasons, and it is wise to follow them. Punishments which are unpleasant are meant to remind you that breaking rules results in negative consequences. And maybe next time you will think harder when tempted to do something you're not supposed to do.
How do plants cause hay fever?
The male reproductive cells of many plants are encased in a hard grain called pollen. Wind carries the pollen of many trees and grasses from one plant to another. When these male reproductive cells unite with female reproductive cells in plants of the same species, fertilization and seed making takes place. Unlike plants that are pollinated by insects or animals, wind-pollinated plants have to produce huge numbers of pollen grains because wind pollination is a less reliable method of fertilization. During certain parts of the year, the air is filled with such pollen grains, which are fine and dry for easier wind travel. Billions of spores, microscopic reproductive cells produced by other types of plants, like molds, also fill the air. Some people are allergic to all these tiny airborne plant particles. They cause inflammation and extra fluid production in the eyes, nose, and throat, resulting in symptoms like itchy, watery eyes, stuffy noses, coughing, and sneezing. The condition is known as hay fever, though it doesn't usually involve hay or cause a fever. People who have seasonal hay fever get these symptoms in the season of the year when the specific pollen they are allergic to is released. In spring, hay fever may be caused by tree pollens. In summer, grass pollens may be the culprit. Ragweed plants bloom in the late summer and fall, their pollens are the most common cause of hay fever.
Where does our food come from?
People in industrialized nations like the United States eat food that comes from all over the world. Such countries have the wealth to buy food products that are brought by plane or ship from far away. A wide variety of canned and packaged foods are available from every corner of the globe. And even fresh foods like fruits, vegetables, fish, and meats can now be sped across oceans in refrigerated boats. So foods that were once rare treats are now available at nearly every time of the year. Arriving from places with different climates and seasons. That means that the asparagus and strawberries you eat may be grown nearby or halfway across the world. Today, when you look in your cupboards, it is like taking a trip around the world. You will see tea from India, coffee from Brazil, olive oil from Italy, and much more. In the past, people ate only the food that they could produce on their farms or find at their local markets. That is still true of many people who live in developing nations.
What causes an itch?
Under the surface of your skin are millions of tiny sensors that detect touch, pressure, pain, heat, and cold. When you have an itch, the sensors send a message to your brain that something is on your skin that usually isn't there. It may be an insect, or a piece of fuzz, or a strand of fallen hair. Dry skin is often itchy because you have flakes of dead skin cells on a surface that is usually kept smooth and supple by the oil from skin glands. Sometimes when you eat or touch something that you are allergic to, your immune system, whose mission it is to protect you, releases irritating chemicals that may cause itching on your skin.
How many hairs do I have on my head?
The average person has about 100,000 hairs on his or her head. People with red hair have less than this, around 90,000, and blondes have more, around 140,000. People with brown or black hair fall in between. Most people lose between 50 and 100 head hairs each day, but new hairs are usually ready to replace them.
Why do we have daylight saving time?
Daylight saving time, DST, came about as a way to adjust clocks during the summer months. When days are longer, to make better use of the daylight hours. Countries began making such clock adjustments during World War I. 1914 to 1918, to save on the fuel needed for artificial light. If people could adjust their clocks so that it got dark at 9 p.m. instead of 8 p.m., then they could turn their lights on 1 hour later, or not at all if they simply went to bed when it got dark. These energy savings have continued today since it gets dark later in the evening. People don't turn on lights until later in the day. And in the summer, the sun rises very early and is usually up when people awake, reducing the need to turn on lights first thing in the morning. In the fall, as the days begin to get shorter, we go back to standard time, which means that the sun sets and rises at an earlier time of day. As the days get shorter, the amount of time between sunrise and sunset shrinks, so that in the heart of winter daylight arrives later in the day and departs earlier than in the spring and summer months. In the United States, daylight saving time, as decided by Congress, begins at 2 a.m. on the first Sunday in April and ends at 2 a.m. on the last Sunday in October, when DST begins. People move their clocks forward 1 hour. When it ends in October, clocks are moved back 1 hour. If you have trouble remembering which direction the clocks should go at which time of year, just think of the expression spring forward, fall back. Many other countries in the world observe some form of daylight saving time, though the exact starting and ending dates differ.
Why are crocodiles and alligators such good hunters?
One advantage crocodiles and alligators have over their enemies and prey is that they can grow to be fairly large. Alligators can be as big as 19 feet, almost 6 meters, and crocodiles, considered the largest and heaviest living reptiles, can be slightly bigger. They have huge, crushing jaws and massive, powerful tails that help them swim and can be used to thrash their opponents. Perhaps their most useful feature as hunters is the positioning of their eyes and nostrils on the top of their heads. This trait allows alligators and crocodiles to keep most of their bodies submerged in the water, hidden from view, while they wait for an animal to come to the water's edge for a drink. The water-loving reptiles can then snatch their prey, pulling the animal into the water to drown it before eating it.
What are spores?
Complex types of plants. Conifers and flowering plants reproduce by way of seeds. These seeds began as tiny spores. The spores in the female reproductive parts of the plant produce an egg cell, while the spores in the male reproductive parts produce sperm cells enclosed in a pollen grain. When the pollen grain is carried, by wind or insects, for example, to a plant's female parts. One of the sperm cells joins with the egg cell, and a seed is formed. That seed contains everything necessary, with the help of water, the right soil, and sunlight, to make a new plant, and once seeds are scattered, they can germinate, or grow into a plant. Simpler types of plants like mosses and ferns reproduce by scattering spores rather than seeds. These plants produce spores in sporangia, or spore cases. Once the spores are mature, they are released and scatter, sometimes carried by wind and water until they reach suitable places for new plants to start. Once spores germinate, they produce tiny plants called gametophytes, which look nothing like the parent plants they came from. Gametophytes produce sex cells and then unite with each other to create the next generation. Plants called sporophytes, which do resemble their parents. During the sporophyte stage, the plant produces spores, which eventually fall to the ground, scatter, and begin the process all over again. Spores are in the air all around us, though they are so small that we can only see them with a microscope. But we know they are there because some of them grow into the molds and mildews that show up around the bathtub or on certain foods that are left on the counter for too long.
What is addiction?
In many cases, substance abuse leads to addiction, which means the person taking the drug is dependent on it to feel pleasure or to not get sick. There are two different types of addiction. One type is called psychological addiction, which means the person taking the drug gets hooked on the pleasurable feelings associated with that drug. A physical addiction, on the other hand, means that the person has built up a tolerance to the effects of the drug, requiring more of the drug more often to achieve the same high. Eventually the addicted person must take massive quantities of certain drugs to feel anything from it at all. And those quantities can sometimes reach deadly proportions. If an addicted person stops taking the drug, he or she will go through what is called withdrawal. That means the body has adjusted so much to having the drug in the system that the person feels sick without it. Withdrawal symptoms include fever, restlessness, vomiting, diarrhea, and severe dehydration. Some drugs are more addictive, or habit-forming, than others. Cigarettes, for example, contain nicotine, which is a highly addictive drug. Many cigarette smokers have a desire to quit but have a very difficult time doing so.
Why do some snakes rattle?
Scientists believe that rattlesnakes shake the rattles at the end of their tails as a warning of their presence. Snakes would rather warn potential enemies away than get involved in a fight. And most creatures familiar with rattlesnakes would probably rather flee than tangle with the rattler. Rattlesnakes might also shake their rattles to attract small birds that could mistake the rattling for a buzzing insect and swoop down for a bug snack, only to be caught themselves by the snake. The rattle is a series of small, hard segments made of dried skin. Each time the rattlesnake sheds its skin, or molts, another segment is added. In its first few years of life, a rattlesnake may molt 3 or 4 times a year. In adulthood, rattlesnakes molt less often. Counting the rattles is not an accurate measure of a snake's age, because it's common for some of the rattle segments to break off. Most adult rattlesnakes have between 6 and 10 rattle segments.
Why does a flamingo stand on one leg?
Scientists don't know for sure why flamingos stand on one leg at a time. Sometimes for several hours, but they have several theories. Some people believe that flamingos lift up one leg so they are less visible to their prey. Standing on one leg, they may resemble a tree to the aquatic creatures they are hunting. During cooler weather, bringing one leg up close to the body can help conserve heat. Some have suggested that standing first on one leg and then the other helps promote the circulation of blood down flamingos' long, skinny legs. Flamingos can even sleep while standing on one leg, and some scientists think there is a connection between their ownal egg position and the way their brains function during sleep. One half of their bodies and brains can sleep while the other half, including the leg they stand on, remains somewhat alert.
How is a frog different from a toad?
Frogs and toads have many features in common, but there are a couple ways to tell them apart. In general, frogs spend more time in the water, while toads spend more time exploring land. Frogs have smooth, moist skin, while toad's skin is generally bumpy. Toads get around by walking and hopping, while frogs, which generally have longer legs, do more leaping. Frogs' feet are more fully webbed than toads, and their legs are usually longer. Frogs and toads make up the order Anura, and within that order there are almost 25 families of frogs. The toads in the family Buphinidae are called true toads, while the frogs in the family Ranidae are called true frogs. The hundreds of other types of anurans in the remaining families are commonly described as frogs if they resemble the Ranidae and toads if they resemble Buphinidae. This rather unscientific method of describing these animals sometimes means that one animal from a particular family is called a toad while a close relative from the same family is called a frog. Sometimes, since there is no commonly used word that refers to frogs and toads together, scientists will simply use the word frog to cover both types of animals. There are about 3,800 species of frogs and toads, and they come in many different shapes, sizes, and colors. The smallest, a Brazilian frog, measures no more than 39 inches, around 10 millimeters, in length. While the Goliath frog from West Africa is almost 12 inches, 30 centimeters, long.
What is the highest place on Earth?
The highest place on the surface of Earth is the top of Mt. Everest, in the central Himalayas. A mountain system located on the border between Nepal and Tibet in southern Asia. Everest rises to 29,028 feet, 8,848 meters, above sea level. On May 28, 1953, New Zealander Sir Edmund Hillary and Nepal native Tenzing Norgay were the first people to successfully make the trip to the top of Everest. Since then many mountain climbers have tried to reach the peak, few have succeeded.
How many oceans are there?
The world has 4 oceans, the Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic. Sometimes the water that surrounds the continent of Antarctica is called the Antarctic Ocean, which would then bring the total to 5. Because all of the oceans are connected to each other, some people consider them to be one gigantic world ocean that is divided into 4, or, if the Antarctic waters are regarded separately, 5 parts. The Arctic Ocean is about 5,440,000 square miles, 14,103,626 square kilometers, in area. The Antarctic covers 12,450,000 square miles, 32,253,886 square kilometers. The Indian Ocean has an area of 28,380,000 square miles, 73,523,316 square kilometers. And the Atlantic extends over 41 million square miles, 106,217,610 square kilometers. The greatest of the oceans, the Pacific, has an area of 64,186,000 square miles, 166,284,970 square kilometers. The Pacific Ocean is by far the deepest, in the Mariana Trench, which extends southeast of the island of Guam to northwest of the Mariana Islands. The ocean floor is 36,198 feet, 11,034 meters, down. The tallest underwater mountain called a seamount is also located in the Pacific Ocean. Mauna Kea rises from the ocean floor and extends above the water surface in Hawaii. It measures 33,480 feet. 10,205 meters, in height, which is even taller than the world's biggest surface peak. Mount Everest, though Mauna Kea's peak is only 13,796 feet, or 4,205 meters, above sea level. The oceans hold 322,280,000 cubic miles, 1,347,000,000 cubic kilometers, of salt water. If you have an aquarium, you know how heavy water can be. Each cubic mile of seawater weighs 4.7 billion tons. That's 9.4 trillion pounds, or 4.3 trillion kilograms.
Why are elephants hunted for their tusks?
Elephants' tusks, the huge, elongated pair of upper teeth that they use for digging and fighting, are the source of ivory, a hard, creamy white material that has long been carved and polished to create beautiful objects. There are two types of ivory: live ivory, which is taken from a recently killed animal, and dead ivory, from an animal long dead, which is usually found on or buried in the ground. Dead ivory is harder and more brittle, cracking easily. Live ivory is more moist and easier to work with. The quest for live ivory has led to hundreds of thousands of elephants being killed for their tusks. Once very widespread, the world's elephant population has dwindled alarmingly because of this slaughter. But these great animals are now protected in many areas by strict laws that punish elephant hunters. Unfortunately, even the threat of punishment is not enough to stop some poachers or hunters who illegally kill protected animals. In spite of an international ban on the sale of elephant ivory, hundreds of elephants are killed each year by people wanting to sell the ivory.
What did dinosaurs eat?
Dinosaurs came in many different shapes and sizes, and they also had a variety of diets. Most dinosaurs ate plants, with the very large dinosaurs eating leaves from the tops of trees and smaller ones eating plants and bushes growing close to the ground. Some dinosaurs were meat eaters, with most hunting other animals for food, and some being scavengers who ate the flesh of dead animals they encountered. The hunters preyed on plant-eating dinosaurs and even on each other. Smaller meat-eating dinosaurs fed on other animals, like insects, lizards, and mammals. Evidence suggests that some dinosaurs hunted in packs, while others lived solitary lives.
What is the hottest temperature ever recorded on Earth?
The hottest temperature ever recorded on Earth was in the desert settlement of Al-Aziziyat, Libya, located in North Africa. On September 13, 1922. That day the temperature reached 136 degrees Fahrenheit, 58 degrees Celsius.
Could a balloon float into outer space?
The air that makes up Earth's atmosphere becomes thinner and lighter the higher up you go. So a helium-filled balloon would stop rising once the air surrounding it weighed the same as the helium gas inside it. Scientists think that 20 miles, 32 kilometers, above Earth is about as far as any balloon could travel.
Is a starfish really a fish?
In spite of their name, starfish are not true fish. They are invertebrates known as echinoderms. All fish are vertebrates. There are actually close to 2,000 species of starfish. And they can grow to as large as 25 inches, 65 centimeters, across. They usually have 5 arms attached to a disc-like body, and they can grow a new limb if one is lost. Starfish have tube feet on the underside of their arms that allow them to move and to cling to rocks or coral. The starfish's mouth is located on the underside of the disc, and some species actually turn their stomachs out of their bodies to surround and digest their prey, including oysters, mussels, and clams.
How many teeth do I have?
You have 2 sets of teeth. The first set, your baby teeth, consists of 20 teeth. These teeth are small so they can fit in the small jaws of a young child. They usually break through singly or in pairs between the ages of 6 months and 30 months. At 6 years of age, a larger set of teeth begin to surface, slowly replacing your baby teeth. 32 new teeth will eventually line your growing jaws. The last coming in around the age of 18. These permanent teeth will perform all your eating tasks for the rest of your life. Your 4 front teeth, top and bottom, sharp incisors cut and tear off food when you bite. Along with your 4 pointed canine teeth. The flat-topped bicuspids, premolars, and molars near the back of your mouth crush and chew your food.